Welcome back. Well, we continue our discussions around the future of Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene as various rumours continue to circulate. Here to discuss this dilemma of ethical leadership within the ANC and within the country as a whole is expert Dr. Mazwe Majola. He's from the Worldwide Institute of Leadership and Development. Thanks very much for coming into studio.
Good morning. Good day.
I mean, it's a vacuum of ethical leadership. That's what some critics are calling the situation we are faced in terms of governance. As you read the situation as a whole, before we get to the issue of Nhlanhla Nene, where are we at in terms of real, credible ethical leadership?
We are at lowest, at its lowest. Whether it's public sector, whether it's private sector, whether it's churches, whether community organization, it's unfortunate that as a country we are bleeding. We are found wanting with this in this area of ethical leadership.
Now, when it comes to the issue of Nhlanhla Nene, he's before denied, on the ENCA, denied ever meeting the Gupta family. Then we hear from him at the state capture inquiry about 11 or so meetings with the Gupta family, at their private home, at their business address as well, over a period of 3 to 4 years. Yeah. There may be many reasons for him lying, but what does that lie do to his credibility, even though he's now said to have come clean?
Yeah. Let me first commend him. I know that I would be a little bit, probably other people will say, what is that doctor saying? I commend him for coming out publicly and apologize.
That couldn't have been easy.
That's a huge thing when it comes to leadership. Great leaders, they know how to apologize. And there are so many people, even in our country, I mean, we have done so many bad things, but they wouldn't apologize. You know, whenever a leader comes out, it's even worse when he comes out public. Of course, he's a public leader, comes out publicly and say, I'm a human being. I miscalculated. I misjudged certain things, and I apologize. So in that regard, I really commend him for doing that, because great leaders, they do that. When it comes to his credibility, unfortunately, it has been tainted big time, because, in his ministry, which is Treasurer of Finance, but also even for himself. I mean, Nhlanhla Nene is a lay preacher at church. I mean, he's a religious person. And also, he is a good person. But unfortunately, just this, I don't want to say a small thing, because obviously there's no small lie or whatever. He has not been tested or proved to be corrupt. I know that the only thing people are crying for is because of his lie. Of course, as you are saying that here, ENCA 2016, he said, I've just met them, casually. Yeah. But you must know one thing, Michelle. Leadership is contextual. At that time in 2016, there might be certain things that made him to do that. Of course, this is a lie. But when we've got to analyze it, what made him, what caused him to say that when he knew that it was not correct. Yeah. So it's contextual. If you sit down with him, I know that South Africans, unfortunately, they are very hard on public leaders, which is true, because obviously the oath that they've taken for the office that they occupy. But the credibility, the integrity has been tainted big time. Remember, reputation, especially for leaders, even any other human beings, reputation is like a shadow. A shadow, you cannot run away from your shadow. Your shadow goes with you wherever you go. Reputation is exactly like that. You cannot ignore it. You cannot avoid it. You cannot run away from it. When it follows you, it follows you. I mean, whatever you've done, this thing that he has done, it will always follow him wherever he goes.
Dr. Majola, you said that he's not proven to be corrupt, but his critics will tell you he has now proven to be a liar. and whether him coming clean with that statement last week, apologizing to South Africans, whether it is way too little, and it certainly is way too late. He had that opportunity when Tabisi Jonas came clean about him being offered the job of finance minister and being offered that massive bribe.
He did, but as I'm saying that, it's contextual,
Yeah.
you know. Anything and everything has a reason under the sun. There should be some very, not good reason, but there would be some reason why he did that at the time. Of course, yes, critics and opposition party, they will say that he was protecting himself because he was eyeing for to come back, so he was trying to be clean. He didn't want, you know. Of course, yes, I'm sure he can, if he go, I mean, he looks back in retrospect, he would be saying that I wish, you know, so there's no wish now. So in that regard, yes, he had, but he's a good leader. He came out and then he apologized. How many leaders in our country, at political level, business, even churches, who have managed to come out and say, yes, I miscalculated, I misread the situation, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have said this, I'm sorry. He has done that. He's a man, of course, yes, as I'm saying, that the reputation, you cannot, you call, cancel certain things.
And the issue at play here is the fact that he is at the helm of possibly the most important portfolio in government. He controls the purse strings of government. So even if he has now an opportunity to come clean about the reasons for those meetings, what unfolded at those meetings, because we don't know. That is one thing we don't know. What happened in those meetings between him and the Gupta families, those 11 meetings? Would that be enough?
He occupies a very important position, probably the second highest ministry from the presidency. It's a huge, internationally, global, everywhere. You know, so indeed, you need a very ethical, faithful, dignified leader or minister who occupies that office.
Do we need someone who's infallible, and is there such a...
There's no one infallible.
Exactly.
There is no one infallible, no leader. Show me any leader who can stand on the rooftop or mountaintop and say, look at me. I mean, I'm infallible, I'm immaculate, I'm spotless, pure. So there's no leader under the sun. Anyone, whether from business or from globally everywhere. Good leaders, they come out and apologize if they've erred. Unfortunately, it's because we are entering the electioneering time. Opposition parties are hammering on him because obviously it's politics. I lament for our president, for Cyril Ramaphosa right now, because he's between hard and rock, really, places. What to do with this issue?
But is this an opportunity, as some analysts have said, an opportunity for the president to, even if he does not want to sack Nhlanhla Nene, to let Nhlanhla Nene take the fall and use it as an opportunity to then target other members of his cabinet, who some have been found to have lied by the High Court, others have been recommended, like Batabile Dlamini, to be investigated by the National Director of Public Prosecution for possibly perjuring herself to the Constitutional Court. Could this be perhaps a blessing in disguise for the president?
It's an opportune time for him to make a very decisive, to become, because Ramaphosa, he does have that tendency of taking his time to act on certain things. It's not a bad thing for leaders. Leaders, they shouldn't be impulsive, but leaders must be calculative.
And decisive.
And decisive, meantime, decisive without being impulsive.
Right.
Because we've got to look at different options and alternatives. And then, as I'm saying, that for him is for within the party itself, what is going to happen within the party with all these factions, but also it's about the country as a whole, it's about markets, it's about global. There's so many options, there's so many factors.
And you touched on that a little earlier. It's not just about one particular decision. There's a whole range of contextual issues.
That's right, absolutely. So he must look at all these different options and say, well, he might not take a decision that all people will applaud. All people say, yes, well done, President. But whatever whatever decision he takes, he would have looked at all different factors and say, for this reason, at this particular time, I'm choosing to take this one, and people will always obviously come and criticize him.
Now, as we wrap up our discussion, Dr. Majola, I want to just talk to you about the Home Affairs Minister, Malusi Gigaba, who is in fact in Parliament now talking about the Gupta's naturalization process. He's been a minister who's been linked in a number of cases to the Gupta family. What is your take on him and how he's responded to these allegations of being so closely linked to state capture? Just last week, he opened up his Twitter account to answer questions from the South African public. But what is your take?
I might be mistaken. I've never heard him coming out apologizing for their mistakes. He's one of those leaders who have always been trying to camouflage and trying to point fingers. It was not me, it was this one. He's not like your nene who would come up and say, yes, I've done it, I'm sorry. That is the big issue, or the dilemma that Ramaphosa is facing. Nhlanhla has done this, has saved the country 1.3 million from the deal that Zuma would have entered into.
Yeah, the nuclear deal.
The nuclear deal, absolutely. But he had, and he come out, apologized. Here are the ministers who have done these bad things. They've never come up, they've never apologized. What do you do with the situation? So that is what, as I'm saying, that Cyril Ramaphosa is facing a very difficult time right now, a challenging time. He must, of course, as leadership emerges during crisis and difficult time, that is when you should be seen as a leader to say that, yes, I've taken this decision, it's a decisive, and then that's why people will respect you in that.
Well, thanks very much for coming into studio and unpacking these issues with us.